Good evening, y'all. We are back with another episode of the Sports Talk, True North Sports Talk podcast. And we are going to be taking a look on this episode at the recent NHL coaching changes. And as usual, this time of year, the season's ended, we're into the playoffs. And the teams that didn't make it are deciding on the future of their coaches. And as usual, this league has a bit of a reputation that there is a lot of turnover in the league with their coaches. That's a well-known fact. And the average time of a coach being with a team is just over 2 years. So as you can imagine, at this time of year, there are a lot of coaches that are changing locations. And as a coach, you know, come the end of the year, depending on how your team did, oh boy, you could be moving in the off season. So yeah, we had some mid-season coaching changes, so we're going to discuss that a little bit as well as we go here. And so yeah, that's what we're doing. We're going to dive right into it here and see where we go from here. So we've had 12 coaching changes since the end of the 2023-2024 season, including 4 in-season firings this year. We had Detroit, Boston, St. Louis, and Chicago. And we had 6 off-season hires before the season even started this year. So we're looking at something that is a time of change. It's a season of change. And we're looking at right now, we still have Winnipeg, Edmonton, Toronto in the second round of the playoffs. Leafs ended up losing Game 3 tonight, so that series is at 2-1 now. So yeah, we're still got some possible coaching shifts here. The Leafs had a new coach this year in Craig Berube, taking over from Sheldon Keefe. And so far, that's brought some amount of success to a Leafs team that has struggled mightily. We're going to take a look at 5 recent coaching changes, and we're going to take a look at backgrounds, new teams' needs, how they fit, all that kind of fun stuff. And we're going to see what we think. We're going to make possibly a little bit of prediction, not anything too serious, but we'll see whether they're going to fit, whether they're not going to fit. So we're going to start out with what was a very sad one for me, at least, and that was the long-tenured coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins, Mike Sullivan. He was recently let go at the end of the season. Now, sadly, I would say he took the fall for Kyle Dubas. Now, being Canadian, we experienced the full Kyle Dubas experience in Maple Leaf land, and sadly, it did not go well. And when he was hired by the Pittsburgh Penguins, for me personally, that was a very large groan moment, because basically what we're seeing this year from the Pittsburgh Penguins was exactly what I expected with Kyle Dubas in charge. Now, Mike Sullivan landed on his feet. He's already been rehired by the New York Rangers, who let go of... gosh, his name's escaping me. We're going to talk about Pierre Laviolette. Sorry. Took me a moment to come up with it. Now, Mike Sullivan, he has a stellar record. He has winning seasons for close to 10 years in Pittsburgh. He's a 2-time Stanley Cup winner with the Pittsburgh Penguins in 2016-2017. And recently, as mentioned, around the end of April there on the 28th, he was let go from Pittsburgh with a 38-35-9 record. They had 85 points, missed the playoffs, and he coached Pittsburgh for nearly a decade, starting in 2015, and he had an overall record of 375, 247, and 82, which is almost a 60% win percentage. And he was hired by the Rangers not long after, on May 7th, so a couple days ago. And let's see, what do the Rangers need from their new head coach? The Rangers were a contender. They were in the Cup Finals a couple years ago. But this year they just kind of fell off the map, finishing with 80 points, down from 114 the year before. And it just felt disastrous. They made a poor trade in the offseason, getting rid of their captain and one of their best players. Their defense was suspect at best. They had the second highest danger chances allowed, and their offense just lacked any kind of punch 5-on-5. They only had 1.5 goals per 60 chances as of December 2024. Chris Drury needed a new, strong, known coach to stabilize the chaotic situation that arguably he himself created when he made some of the moves that he did. So what does Sullivan bring to the New York Rangers? Well, he has experience with some of the best players in the world. Crosby, Malkin, Tanger, Jordan Staal. He's coached all kind of guys over the years. So that bodes well for Artemi Panarin and Micah Zibanejad. And, their goalie's escaping me right now. Shesterkin. Right. And so he could bring in a system that helps to give structure and fix some of the shortcomings on defense. Pittsburgh ranked 10th in goals against per game this year with just under 3. So that should help. And Shesterkin was one of the best goalies in the league leading into this year. So what are some possible cons to Sullivan? His Penguins missed the playoffs the last 2 years. He has a very rigid style that some of the Rangers players may not enjoy so much, as they had difficulty adapting to Peter Laviolette's system. And so that may be tricky for some of his players. Now, the Rangers' fall was very swift and very messy. As I mentioned, trading away key players in the locker room and not fixing anything. So Sullivan may take a little while to hit the ground running here in New York. Sullivan brings stability, but the Rangers' deeper roster issues, defense, aging core, their prospects, they don't have a lot coming through the line, and it shows their prospect pool is ranked 19th. So that might limit what Sullivan is able to bring to the table as a coach. And it feels like a slight lateral move. As much as I love Mike Sullivan, he did a great job in Pittsburgh. Drury really needs to do some work on the roster to give Sullivan the pieces he needs to bring the Rangers back to the success that they've experienced in the past. Alright, switching gears here, going out west a little bit to Anaheim. And Joel Quenneville is the new coach of the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. Now, Quenneville is a 3-time Stanley Cup winner. He was the coach of the Chicago Blackhawks, 2010, 2013, 2015. He brings a lot of experience. He coached the Blues for quite a while. And he's just a really solid thing, and the NHL has reinstated him in July following his resignation from Florida due to a situation that occurred in his previous job with Chicago. So he was hired yesterday, in fact, by the Anaheim Ducks after Greg Cronin's departure. So 59 to 80 points over 2 years, but no playoff success or even making it to the playoffs. So the Ducks have a severe need, and I think it goes deeper than coaching. However, Anaheim improved by 21 points last year to this year, but they missed the playoffs. And so they need to take their new coach and find the best players they can to go along with their young stars like Mason Matavich and Leo Carlson, and make sure that they fit into Coach Quenneville's style and are able to buy into the program, because it's a winning program when used correctly. They're going to need a lot of help because they had a bottom 5 power play and a bottom 5 penalty kill. So they're going to need some new personnel out there in Anaheim, or they're going to struggle, because they were about 2.8 goals per game for 27th in the league, and then that's just not going to cut it, especially out there in the West, with you got some powerhouses like Dallas and Vegas out there. So let's see. Quenneville, 969 wins, second all time. He has an ability to develop young talent, as we saw. He oversaw the development of guys like Patrick Kane, Jonathan Toews, and so that makes him an ideal situation for Anaheim's prospect-heavy roster. And their prospects were ranked 12th. And so his coaching style and structured offense with the puck possession heavy style could boost their offense going into next season. A little bit of a turn 'em loose, as it were. So, what could be a drawback or a con from Quenneville's coaching style? He has a very old school approach that may rub some of his younger players the wrong way, but his long absence from the NHL raises questions whether he's able to adapt to the speed of the modern game. The Ducks' expectation to reach the playoffs may seem, at least to me, like it's a bit ambitious given the roster holes that they have and that need filling. So this could be an interesting tenure. I think if anyone can do it, it's Quenneville. He has the pedigree. That part is undeniable. But this hiring may seem to some on the outside like a bit of a gamble that his past abilities will work in today's game. The Ducks need development, not just discipline. And so this is where Quenneville is going to have to show and prove that he can still do those things in today's NHL. And he may have to change or adapt and evolve, or this could be January to be the end of his tenure. Now, this is a bit of a mid-season coaching adjustment. Jim Montgomery to the St. Louis Blues. And he was fired by Boston after 20 games this season because Boston really got older and took a lot of step back. And they were 9-2 when Montgomery was let go. He had won the Jack Adams in 2023 with an NHL record 135 points. And within a week, he had been hired by the Blues on November 20th. He was replacing Drew Bannister, who lasted just 22 games, going 8-16-2. So that was a bit of a situation in the Blues, but the Blues made it to the playoffs once Montgomery took over. So the Blues were a mess under Bannister, ranking 31st in goals for percentage at 42.47 and expected goals for percentage at 40.97 5-on-5. They needed a coach to maximize the talent of the roster that they had and improve their structure of play so that they could make it to the playoffs and give the Winnipeg Jets that 7-game series that we just finished witnessing. So what are the things that Montgomery brings to the table? He has a high-tempo, rush-oriented style that we've seen in Boston for years, and it's already improved the Blues' expected goals for percentage, and his 2023 Bruins led the league in goals at .301, which that style of play is going to help St. Louis and their struggling offense and just give it that little nitro boost that it needs. And it got them to the playoffs, again, 7-game series. Concerns with the Blues were they lacked depth that the Bruins teams had under Montgomery. So players like Jordan Kyrou and Robert Thomas, they haven't been able to elevate their game, and hopefully Montgomery can bring the best out of those players. And that Montgomery's firing from Boston suggests he struggles when rosters underperform. So it was a bit of a risk when he came to St. Louis. So far, it's worked out okay, but they'd like to make it net farther than the first round next year. Montgomery is an upgrade over Bannister, but the Blues are roster-driven, not just by coaching, and he's a short-term fix. So without significant changes to that St. Louis Blues roster, there is still a risk that the Blues could either fall out of the playoff picture next year, or they could just be in that play-in or that bottom tier there. So the success hinges on Doug Armstrong's off-season moves. Switching gears over to Detroit here, and Todd McLellan. He also came in mid-season, and he was hired, as we said, by the Detroit Red Wings on December 30th, and he was replacing Derek Lalonde, who was fired after a 15-18-4 start. So McLellan now, he previously had stops in San Jose. He was in Edmonton for a few years there. So San Jose 2008-2015, then Edmonton 2015 to 2018, and then he was with the LA Kings most recently up to last year, so 2019 to 2024. He has a career record .598, .412, and .132, so just under 60%. And what do the Red Wings need from McLellan? Well, their defense was underwhelming. They allowed over 3 goals per game. That's 24th in the league. Their even strength offense was pedestrian at best at 2.41 goals, 5-on-5, and again, that's 26th. Their penalty kill was a disaster at 74.8. That was almost last in the league. And they needed an experienced veteran coach to maximize the talents of guys like Dylan Larkin, Lucas Raymond. And what further points can we say that McLellan brings to the table? He has experience with rebuilding teams, as was the case in Edmonton when they had a young core with McDavid, Draisaitl, and those guys there. So that suits Detroit's roster, which improved 11 points from Lalonde's team. So his Kings team ranked top 10 in penalty kill, so that would be an upgrade using McClellan's system, and that addressed a key weakness, as we mentioned, in the Red Wings' overall systems. So, McClellan's Oilers tenure ended poorly. He was fired after a 9-10-1 start, and he's never won a cup despite 16 playoff appearances. Detroit's roster flaws, lack of elite defensemen, inconsistent goaltending, and there's a lot of teams out there that can say the same thing about their goaltending situation. Previously mentioned Pittsburgh being one of those teams. So that's gonna slow down his ability to bring them to the playoffs and jump forward by leaps and bounds. So McClellan brings stability. His track record suggests he's better at steady progress than, like we said, leaps and bounds and transformative change. So Detroit's issues mirror his past challenges, and without a stronger defensive core, this hire, you may not hear a whole lot about it, and it may not move the needle enough to keep McClellan around. So let's see. What else do we have here? We have David Carl, the Chicago Blackhawks, hired on May 1st after they let go of Luke Richardson in the mid-season. Carl is a two-time NCAA championship with Denver, so that's college hockey, and so he's good at developing players, and that should help with Chicago's rebuild with Connor Bedard at the start of it, but his lack of NHL experience makes this a long-term project, which means if you're a Blackhawks fan, buckle up because this could be a while. So, the NHL is known for having a short leash on coaches. 12 changes in a year shows that GMs aren't patient with their coaches. They often blame them for issues in roster deficiency. And again, as we mentioned off the top, 2 years suggests that no one's safe in this job. And that just comes with the territory of being an NHL coach. And so yeah, we'll see what happens with the teams that are left in the playoffs. Scott Arnell replaced Rick Bowness in 2024 and led them to the President's Trophy, so they can be real great. His defensive structure brought a good, strong defense in front of Hellebuck there in Winnipeg. And 2.4 goals against was second in the NHL, which is why they're in the second round. And the question is, can he outcoach Peter DeBoer in Dallas? So the Edmonton Oilers' Chris Knobloch was hired mid-season last year, and he turned Edmonton around, going 49-27-6, and his calm demeanor suited the Stars there, like a McDavid, like a Draisaitl. But they're now facing Bruce Cassidy's Vegas Golden Knights, and this is going to test his playoff mettle. This is going to be a good series out there. Game 2's going on right now as we speak. As we mentioned, the Maple Leafs' Craig Berube was hired at the beginning of this season. He's brought grit. The Leafs ranked 5th in hits in 2024-25, helping them get past Ottawa in the first round. They're now facing Florida and Paul Maurice, last year's Cup winner. And so this is going to be a true test of Berube's style. So these coaching changes show how the NHL's obsession with quick fixes but lasting success requires a lot more than just a quick fix. And a lot of the coaching changes in any league often feel like a knee-jerk reaction because most fans watching can see the issues either on the field, on the ice, on the court, whatever the case may be, is that there's often roster issues that are not being addressed. And so certain teams like Edmonton, Toronto, Winnipeg gave them the slight tweak they needed, but it's not necessarily the best way to go all the time. Because until you give your coach what he needs in order to succeed, why are you firing him? That's the big question here. So, here's what we're going to do. In the comments around this video, wherever you're watching it, whether it's on Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, wherever it may be, let us know what you think. Who's got the best coach that they've installed so far? We know some of the guys like McClellan, Berube, Quenneville, they all have the pedigree. And Carl's a fresh face to that mix. So which one do you guys think is going to pay off? Where do you think some of those teams are headed? So let us know. Go into the comments, give us some constructive debate about how you guys feel this is going to go. And as one season winds down, we start looking forward to what the next season's going to bring. So, as we go along, we'll mention some coaching changes and all that kind of fun stuff. So, share your thoughts on these new hires. As I said, use the hashtag TrueNorthSportsTalk and tune in to the second round of the playoffs. You can find that in Canada on Sportsnet, Sportsnet Plus. And if you guys haven't already, let's see. Alright, so Toronto, Florida's already over. Winnipeg, Dallas is happening. And if you guys haven't already, get onto our YouTube and our Rumble, Spotify, subscribe to the channel, and get those notifications so you never miss a show. Alright guys, have an awesome night, have an awesome weekend, and we will see you next time on the True North Sports Talk podcast.